Alright, welcome back to the channel everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be doing a video, and another video today. I know, it's great, lots of content, lots of new videos for you guys to watch. So yeah, if you like that, well then, great. If you don't like it, I don't know why you're watching this video. Hopefully you enjoy the videos. And today we're doing a video that has been asked in one of my previous comments, well, not my comments, but someone else's comments, and it was about the timetable. It's a good upload, I think, and it would be useful. I actually didn't think of this, but yeah, it's a solid idea, very good idea, and I'm going to be taking you guys through a typical timetable for me, basically. It's quite tricky, the reason being it's not very set our timetables, but I'll try and take you guys through a little bit of what it's normally like for me, you know, in a standard day as an Imperial College student, or maybe, you know, 5 days. So hopefully you'll enjoy the video. Now, if you guys want to see my face a lot more on your phone, on your TV, on the cinema, on your dog, even on the moon, make sure you subscribe, because that's the only way you're going to get to see more of my face. No, but please do subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you guys could. It's lovely seeing a lot of you guys now hitting that subscribe button, liking and everything. But yeah, if you guys could just hit that red button down below, we'd really appreciate it. So yeah, I've got my iPad with me just to help me out, because I don't actually know sort of the timetable that well. The reason being, as I said, it's not very set in stone, it changes very often. So I've loaded up my timetable on the Outlook app, which is where we basically have most of our things. I'm going to basically take you guys through a standard timetable. Now, a few things to remember. I'm a medical student, so it's going to be quite a lot busier than it would be if you were an Imperial College student, and if you were studying another degree or course, you might have a slightly different timetable in terms of the number of lectures, the types of lectures that you've got first year. So in another way, it's going to be quite a lot less heavy than it would be for a third year or a fourth year or a fifth year, and especially for somebody who's in their clinical years, it's going to be very different. Obviously, I'm pre-clinical, I'm undergraduate, so I very much rely on tutorials, live reviews, those kind of things. I don't actually go into hospitals a lot, and I'm going to be taking you guys through a timetable from my first/second term. The last term is after examinations, and it's not very heavy, and there aren't a lot of things going on, so I'm going to take you guys through something which is, you know, a standard pre-exam timetable, something that you would do, you know, normally. You guys know at school, once you finish your A levels, you don't do a lot of things. Once you finish your GCSEs, AS levels, you sort of relax a little bit, so that's not very helpful. So I'm going to take you guys through a timetable. So I'm going to pick January the 18th, which is the week, or the second week after we return from our Christmas holidays. So it's pretty heavy in terms of the content. We have a lot of things to cover before exams. We don't have any sort of exams after Christmas. I believe that used to be a thing at Imperial, but now they've changed it. It's now in March or April or somewhere around that, but it's no longer at this point, which is kind of great. Okay, so let's start with Imperial. So Imperial College, it's a standard timetable, so let's have the whole week set out. And it's 7 days, so we do go to university 7 days a week from about 7 to 5. We stay there for a very long time. We get about 25 minutes for our lunch. There's not much really for us to do. We have to be in the lecture hall for pretty much 5 hours a day. No, I'm joking, don't worry. You're not in university for 7 days a week. It's only 5 days, so... Also, an interesting thing to note is that you have a regularly scheduled Wednesday afternoon sort of break, and that's not a break per se. It's meant for you to do extracurricular things. So if you want to do music, you can do music then. If you want to do sports, you can do sports then. You can really do anything you want. You don't have to, it's not compulsory. No one's asking you to go to a particular society, but you know, if you want to, there is a gap there. You can attend rehearsals, training, practice, sport games, you can attend tournaments, matches, whatever you want really, but it's sort of the entire afternoon is usually given to you guys to do whatever you want. You don't have to, you can just spend that time catching up on things, and people do that. So if you, for example, are a part of a society and one particular week is very busy for you, if there's nothing going on in that society, you know, if it's just another standard training session, you can just take that week off and use that for revision or to catch up, which in some cases is very helpful. In terms of the content that you've been covering that week, if you are struggling, you can use that Wednesday to catch up. I can't really think of anything else that's regularly scheduled. You might have an iExplore module. An iExplore module is basically like sort of a extra academic thing. So it's not to do with the MBBS at all. It's something different. So it could be something like, I don't know, sociology, or it could be French, or it could be something different. You do from, I think it's 4 to 6 every Tuesday, and you sort of go to sessions on it, and then you have an exam, or you have a presentation, or courseworks, or some sort of assessment you'll have, and you get a grade at the end of it. You don't have to fail, you don't have to pass. It's just sort of an extra thing. It's voluntary in year 1, and after that I believe you do have to take it. I don't think you have to pass it necessarily, but it's good to pass it. So that's, you might have that at your old school. We called it E&E for enrichment and enhancement, but your school might call it something different. You might not have it, but again, it's voluntary in year 1. I selected it and then sort of didn't want to do it when I realised that I had a lot of things going on in terms of medicine. So I sort of realised I'm not going to be able to do it. So I decided to drop out, which is fine. It's got nothing to do with your medicine program. It's just something completely different. Year 2, you do have to do it, so I've made my options. I am going to be taking it in year 2, and I've picked some options that look quite interesting, and they look really cool. I'm more into sort of the group work presentation side of things. I've picked things that go in that direction, so sort of group work, courses, like that. And yeah, I'm going to be taking that in year 2. It usually lasts for 1 term in year 2. In year 1, same applies. It usually lasts only a term, so you don't have to, commit every single Tuesday for your entire year. It's usually the first or second term every Tuesday, 4 to 6. Some of them do last 2 terms, but that's up to you really. So let's quickly move on. In terms of the rest, so let's lay out a basis. You have lectures, you've got tutorials, you've got your placements, and I would say you've also got your GR session. Those are your gross anatomy sessions. So you basically go and look at pro sections. Those are the 3 things you mainly have in year 1. So lectures are not that frequent. Imperial try and move away from just passive lectures. So you will have a few lectures, you will definitely. Some content you just have to get taught it, you can't make it a tutorial, it's very difficult. So you'll have lectures sort of that span from about half an hour to maybe even 3 hours. And they will usually be spaced out according to when and where they are. Obviously, if they're in lecture halls, you'll have usually enough time to travel there. And let's say, they could be randomly placed. So let's put a few lectures in few random spots, somewhere on the timetable. You then also have things like tutorials. Tutorials are group sessions. They also run from about half an hour to maybe 2.5 hours. And they, again, vary in location. They can be online, they can be in person, they can be whatever. And they, again, will usually give you enough time to travel to and from. You can have a lecture directly preceding a tutorial, or a tutorial directly preceding lectures, but you'll have a bit of time to travel between the 2. And even if they are between the 2, they'll be at the same place. So let's say you've got a pituitary lecture at 2:55 until 3:55, and then you've got a tutorial from 4:15 to, let's say, 4:45. They will usually be both at Charing Cross or both at St Mary's, or something like that. They won't be in Newcastle and Portsmouth. Obviously not. You'll definitely be able to get to and fro. You don't need to worry about that. So those are your main 2 things I'd say in a timetable. Those are 2 things that are mainly put down. You also have things like placements. So in year 1, you have GP placements for the first 2 terms, and they happen every other week, usually on Thursdays. And for us, they were sort of on a rota basis. So 2 of us would go in the afternoon, 2 of us would go in the morning, and 2 of us would spend the placement off-site. So usually online or some other places. And that's not on campus in terms of university, that's on campus in terms of on the actual GP site. So for example, it could be in Harrow, it could be in Pinner, it could be in Kensington, it could be anywhere really in Imperial sort of GP placements. So they have a few that they sort of not own, but sort of are partnered with, and they'll allocate you randomly usually. You'll end up with someone in your tutor group so that you get to spend more time with them. But in terms of the locations your tutor groups are sent to, that's completely randomized really. It's not based on where you live, where you're staying. It's very random, and you can't unfortunately pick and choose. You do just have to go. But since it's every other week, it's not a lot. So even if it's far away, it's not that really shabby. In term 3, you don't have those anymore. You have a hospital placement, and that's every day for 2 weeks, right after your assessments are ready. And once they finish, you have your hospital placements. those are every day for 2 weeks, and they very nicely allow you to swap. So as long as you can find somebody who wants to swap with you, you can swap. So for example, I was originally put down to go to West Middlesex Hospital. I wanted to go to Northwick Park Hospital simply because it's very close to where I live at the moment and where I'm staying. So I swapped with somebody, and I went to Northwick Park Hospital. After the 2 weeks, you don't go back there anymore. You finish basically all of your hospital work, GP work for the entire year, and the rest of the year is basically spent on tutorials and lectures for your podcasts, which, if you don't know what that is, refer to a previous video. I'll put it on the screen somewhere, and yeah, you can take a look at that. That'll explain more what I mean by podcast. But yeah, take a look at that video. I explain more about the third term work we do at Imperial College London. So that's the placement. Not a big section of the timetable, even though it looks quite heavy. It's not a lot. It's usually half a day for us. I don't know if it's going to say like that or if it's going to be a whole day, but yeah. You then have your CAS sessions, clinical anatomy sessions, and your GR sessions. So they usually are right next to each other. So you'll have a clinical anatomy, maybe 15 minutes, and then before your gross anatomy, or you might have it the other way around. The reason being is because they're both about the same content. Clinical anatomy is you're basically in a room where you learn about the clinical side of it. So let's say you're learning about the upper limbs, so the brachial plexus. You might learn about injuries to the brachial plexus, how to identify them, things like ulnar nerve injuries, things like radial nerve injuries, and you learn about that in more of a clinical setting. So you learn it in terms of teaching, and then after that you go to an actual dissection room and you actually dissect. You don't dissect, actually, that's a lie. You do prosection, so it's already cut up. You just have to lift it, move it around and everything, and you're in your tutor groups again usually. So that's always basically within the same period. So you'll always do them together. You'll never, do one week and then do that gross anatomy session next week, if you get what I mean. So that'll always happen together. The time between them can vary from 5 minutes to 1 hour and 15 minutes, but you'll always stay, at university to do both of those sessions, unless obviously there's extenuating circumstances. So those are those things, and they usually again happen every other week, maybe every week for some things, but yeah, they don't happen more than that. So that's basically everything I can think of on my timetable. I'm just having a look on my timetable. I've got my iPad here. I can't seem to find anything else that's regularly scheduled. You do have things called engagement and feedback assessments. They're basically like small assessments, very small assessments, tiny, about 10 to 15 questions. They last about, how long do they last? I would say about 15 minutes. They don't matter at all. They are completely mocks. They're completely sort of for your own benefit purely. You are recommended to do them and turn up to do them. So, it is useful actually as well, because, if you do well, it's nice to know you've done well, and if you've done really well, it's really nice to know you've really well. If you've obviously done poorly, you can now look back and know, okay, that topic I did poorly on. And on top of that, it also just motivates you to learn your content a little bit more, as opposed to just sort of passively going along or sort of just moving along with content. By no means am I saying that I rocked all of my EFAs. There were some EFAs that I did really badly in, some of them I did really well in, so, it just identifies which topics I know more than others. And they, again, very small modules. They're about 15 minutes there every few weeks they'll take place, and yeah, that's not a big thing to worry about. It's just for your own benefits. What else have we got? So, apart from this, I can't really think of anything else. You've got your CSIs along the way. Like I said in my previous thing, CSIs are basically assessments that you'll have every few weeks about something else that you're not learning about. So maybe something like, let's say, dementia or fractures, something that you're not learning about in your lectures / reviews / tutorials. This is something different, that you have a session every other week, and you work with your tutor group again, and you revise it. Then you come in, or you do online every few weeks. You'll come in and sit that exam. It's 15 minutes. You do the individual one, then you do the same questions again for 15 minutes or to half an hour. Then you sit a big set of questions with your tutor group together. These assessments do count for your end of MBBS grades. They do count, so it's important you do well in them. They happen every few weeks, and the revision sessions obviously happen before each assessment, so you get enough time to revise for them as well. Also, so they will be scattered, whether it's a CSI revision session, whether it's a CSI actual assessment, they will be throughout, your timetable. They again happen every few weeks, every week, maybe every other week, and it's one only. That's another part of your timetable. Let me just have a look. You'll have a few other things scattered on there, things like meetings, assessments, sessions where you meet with lecturers, talk about how you're doing. And apart from that, that's really all it is. As you can probably see, it's not very set in stone. It's very flexible and it can change based on what you're doing at the moment or what you're going through at the moment. It can alter, and that's the takeaway message I'd say, that it's very flexible. And although this is a typical timetable, it can get a lot busier and it can get a lot more relaxing depending on where you are at your university stage, really. So yeah, obviously any other things like catch-up sessions or societies, they will all have an impact on your timetable and how busy it is. But apart from that, yeah, that's everything really, and that's all I can really say. I can't think of anything else. If you guys want to see more of my timetable, let me know. I'll try and somehow show you guys more. If that's great, let me know. Let me know if you've got any questions about it, drop them in the comments below. And make sure you like the video, subscribe, and come back to the next video.